Good day, boys and girls, and welcome to Having Fun with Mathematics as we continue to develop number sets. What we would have done, we would have spent some time with fractions, and we would have done all four operations with fractions. We need to remember that we are doing this video as a series, so each video is required. You need to understand each video before you go on to the next. So this morning we shall be starting the decimal system. And in order to understand the decimal system, you need to understand fractions very well. Okay? So I'm going to look at this. Suppose I had a place value chart, 100, tens, and ones, and I had a whole cake. And let's say I had sliced my cake into 10 equal slices, and I had one slice. How would you call that one slice? You would call that one slice, sorry, 1/10. 1/10. So where on the place value chart will you put this 1/10? Now many children would think that you would place it under the tens. But if we place this here, if we place this 1 here to say we have 1/10, that is 10 wholes. 10 wholes. That's not 10 whole cakes we have here. This is just 1 out of 10. This is one cake and we have one piece out of 10, which we call 1/10. So if you were thinking about here, then no. Then it means to say you don't even understand the place value chart. This here is wholes. So if you had one whole, you place it here. If you have 10 wholes or 100 wholes, let's think of wholes in terms of a dollar. If you have $1, you'll put it here. But if you had $10, you put it there. 10 whole dollars. Okay? So for fractions based on tenths, there is a new column that exists right here. There's a point, and then there's a new column here called tenths. And the tenths column is there so that we can represent our fractions. So if we have 1/10, 1/10 means that we have 0 wholes, and this point here is called the decimal point, and the decimal point is used to separate the wholes from the fractions, and I have 1/10. Good? Suppose I had shaded 3. I'll be talking about 3/10. How do I write that? 0 wholes and 3/10. So here we see we have a fraction, but we can write our fraction as a decimal on the placeholder chart. So 3/10, 0.3. When I had 1/10, 0.1. And again, if I may go on, suppose I had, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5/10. 0.5. So look at this. What is 0.1? 1/10. What is 0.3? 0.3 is 3/10. What is 0.5? 0.5 is 5/10. So then, how would I write 0.7? Well, if 0.1 is 1/10, and 0.3 is 3/10, and 0.5 is 5/10, then 0.7 is simply 7/10. And how do I write 9/10? How do I write 9/10 as a decimal? Well, 9/10 would be simply 0 wholes and 0.9. So let's recap what we would have done. We said that there is a place value chart, and on the place value chart, we can represent our fractions based on tenths. because there's a decimal point that is understood, and the right of the ones and the decimal point is used to separate wholes from fractions. And as we separate our wholes from our fractions, let's look at this. We said we can take 1/10 and write it as 0.1. 3/10, write it as 0.3. 5/10, 0.5. So any fraction based on tenths. Alright? Look at this, how many tenths I will have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 tenths as a fraction, and 7 tenths can be written 0 wholes and what? 7 tenths. Alright? We can think of tenths in terms of 10 cents. Yeah? Because 10 tenths make 1 whole. And similarly, 10 cents will make $1. Alright? 10 cents will make 1 whole dollar. So 10 tenths, 1 whole. Alright? Likewise, if we have a whole and we divide a whole into 100 pieces. 100 pieces. Imagine you had a cake and you slice that cake into 100 pieces. How would you call one piece? You will call one piece one slice out of 100 slices. It will be a very small piece. So where on the place value chart will you place 100? I'm sure by now you know not to put it here because this is 100 wholes. So next to the tenths, there's another column there, ETH. Right? So what does 100 mean? 100 means that we have 0 wholes, 0 tenths, and 100. 0.01. Very, very simple. So we have 0 wholes, 0 tenths, 100. Alright? And I'm sure this would remind you. Suppose I had 6 wholes. 6 wholes. And next to my 6 wholes, I had 1/10. So I would call it 6 wholes and 1/10. So look at it. 6 wholes, 1/10. What about 5 wholes and 7 hundredths? I will write it as having 5 wholes, 0 tenths, and 7 hundredths. 5.07. Alright? So the decimal system is very, very easy. I always say that fractions and decimals, they are like brothers. Right? Because they're the same thing we are talking about. It's the same amount we are talking about. So what we want to establish this morning is that we can write our fraction as a decimal and write our decimal as a fraction. So look at this. In terms of money, if we had $6.25, because you have been using the decimal system all about the money. What does this tell us? We have $6, 2 10 cents, and 5 cents. 6 wholes, 2 tenths, yeah? 6 whole dollars, 2 10 cents, and a 5 cents. Okay, how do you write 5 cents? You write 5 cents as $0, 0 10 cents, and 5 cents. That is 5 cents. Okay, so if we use money, we can use money to be able to better understand our decimal system well. Alright, so an exercise I can give you is to write 0.9 as a fraction. What would you write? You would write 9, 0.9 means 9/10. So it has 9 out of 10. I can ask you to write 8/10 as a decimal. 8/10 will be 0 wholes and 0.8. I can ask you to write 3 wholes and 4 out of 100 as a decimal. How do you write that? 3 wholes, and you put your point to separate your wholes from your fractions. And how do you write 4 hundredths? 4 hundredths mean we have no tenths and 4 hundredths. 6 and 5, 6.5. 6.5 simply means 6 wholes and 5 out of 10. Alright? And some of you will remember that I always try to advise you. I always say to you that when you are writing your fractions, when you need to check to see if you can reduce it. So 5/10 could reduce it because just reduce it. So you really get 6.5. Alright? But as we go along, we will spend some time on that. Alright? So boys and girls, here we are seeing this morning is that we can write fractions as decimals. We can begin to write fractions as decimals. Alright? So, until then, I shall leave an exercise with you all where you will have to convert fractions to decimals and decimals to fractions. Alright? And we will do it this way. 8/10. Do you have any wholes there? No. 0 wholes, 8/10. But if I had 8 hundredths, how do I write that? I have 0 wholes, 0 tenths, but 8 hundredths. And if I had 3 wholes and 8 tenths, I write 3.8. Good? So until then, so long.